Anthony, I'm excited. I think today we're going to curate a really excellent show.
You are so smart.
And clever.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Anthony Melchiori, so great to see you on a Tuesday. How are you, sir?
You know what I learned about us? Even when we're irritated with each other, we still like each other.
I'm sorry that you're irritated with me, but it happens from time to time. Just ask my wife. She'll give you all the lessons on how irritating I can be. And then, honestly, you'll feel relieved you're not that irritated.
How are you, my brother?
I'm doing really good, buddy.
I'm really excited about today's show, man.
I'm excited about today's show, too, because we have John Bortz, the CEO of Pebblebrook, on today, and Jennifer Barnwell, who's the president of Curator Hotels and Resorts, a brand new company that was just announced, I believe, on November 18th, also known as my birthday back then. So that's pretty exciting.
We'll find out and everything's right with the world because Colleen, our favorite fan, is here.
Yes, welcome back, Colleen. And I noticed she's watching more regularly, so that's great. Speaking of things that are great, thank you, Best Buy, for being a great sponsor and for allowing us to promote it. Because, guys, remember, Best Buy Business is a leader in providing technology solutions to hotels, and they carry all major brands of hospitality TVs. But most importantly, they've got over 4,000 Geek Squad agents that are there to help you and do absolutely everything. So even if you're technologically illiterate, it doesn't matter. The Geek Squad is there to help you. Be sure to visit bestbuy.com/hospitality to learn more about them and connect with a dedicated hospitality expert.
They could have helped you yesterday, huh?
Oh, my God. I definitely needed the Geek Squad yesterday, but we are figuring out what these problems are. You know, I've got so many different things going on with the computers that sometimes technology says, F you, Glenn, and that's just too bad. But we're going to get through it. Also, I want to thank Ecotech for being such a great advertiser with us. They've got these great disposable trash cans that cost very little, a lot less than it would be for you to have your housekeeping team continuing to clean them and empty them and all of that kind of great stuff. Eco Technology is an awesome company. Check them out at eco-techwaste.com.
And you know what I like about them? When you're in the room, it's a real waste paper basket. Like it's not one of those small ones where you put a container of, whatever in it and it fills it up. It's a real container, a real waste paper basket. And you get rid of it, and it's inexpensive, and you don't have to clean it and waste labor dollars. So, my brother from a different mother, or what are we talking about today?
All right. Well, I think let's tease everybody. Right now, I'm sitting right here, or I should say I'm not sitting right here at the old number 77 hotel in New Orleans. Beautiful hotel. Let's take a quick look at it.
You know, it reminds me of a hotel I built in Brooklyn called the Brooklyn Hotel. And it looks very similar to that with the brick walls. They really did a great job of bringing the brick walls into the room. And really, I mean, you don't need a lot of art and you don't need a lot of ornamental decoration because the brick is just gorgeous. That's a gorgeous room. And what I like about it, it's simple. It's simple. They didn't over decorate it. It's just absolutely perfect.
It feels classic yet modern at the same time and extremely comfortable. And to me, I have a feeling that's pretty much the new theme of the Curator Hotel and Resorts brand, brought to you by Pebblebrook. And to talk about it, we got the CEO of Pebblebrook, Mr. John Bortz, and the president of Curator Hotel and Resorts, Jennifer Barnwell. Hey, guys. Welcome so much to No Vacancy Live. Boy, are we excited to have you two today.
Hey, I could hardly tell, Glenn, but thanks for having us.
I know. Sorry, I feel so lame and depressed, but I'm still upset that Anthony is irritated with me. So, I am going to be a little low energy today because of that.
So, John, welcome. I mean, what you guys have done at Pebblebrook is legendary, and it's like one of those stories of like where'd they come from. Right. And I was talking to Ray yesterday, and who's CFO, and
that's Ray Martin.
And he was telling me a little bit about the story, and it's interesting. And then Jennifer in the green room, her and I were talking about our days at Tishman. It was the greatest school I could have ever gone to, even though it wasn't a school. And we have the same friends in common. And Jennifer, I was looking at your biography and on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, she was a vice president of Tishman. I was first vice president, so I outranked her. But
You
now
totally
you're a
did.
president. Now you're a president, and I'm Glenn's sidekick.
Well, when you think you're at the top, you only have down to go. So welcome, Anthony. I'm really glad. Mr. Bork, so great to see you today. I think the best place to start, before we get into the wider understanding of what's going on currently at Pebblebrook, but tell us a little bit about Curator. Why create something new? It's a brand new collection of existing hotels and ones that are forthcoming. What was the impetus for putting this particular collection together?
So Glenn, first, you're not going to call me Mr. Bortz this whole show, are you? Because
No, I don't know why. You just command respect, unlike Anthony.
No, I'm going to call you John if it's okay. I'm just going to call you Jennifer's assistant. Is that okay?
That's all right. I was gonna call Jennifer Lady Barnwell, so I guess that's out the window.
That would be a new one for me.
All right, so
I like
John,
that one. We're going to use that one.
John, take it away.
Great.
So really, how much time do we have? It's a long story, but
Don't worry, it's the internet. We've got all the time.
So you might recall back in 2018 that we had a little pursuit going, first to merge and then ultimately acquire a company I formerly founded called LaSalle Hotel Properties. Two public lodging REITs that had very similar strategies, with a good part of the strategy being focused on lifestyle and in particular small independent lifestyle hotels, brands, etc. And as we were in that very public pursuit, we got a lot of phone calls from vendor partners out in the industry, similar to your sponsors, and they called and they said, "Look, we understand you're going to be a lot bigger, and we'd love to do business with you, do more business with you." And so when we completed that, we realized, frankly, that we were now the largest owner of independent lifestyle hotels in the United States, or at least that by our count. That's not that that's any laudable issue, but the point was it meant that we had economies of scale. We were of large enough size that we could take advantage of that size. We have an industry where the little guy gets charged the most by most vendors, providers of products and services, and the biggest get charged the least. And of course, that makes for even more difficult competitive environment. And so as we were having these conversations, we realized that we could bring down the cost for our own portfolio of 33, I think at the time, independent lifestyle hotels. Some call them boutiques, whatever you want to call them. And as we rolled those new arrangements out through our portfolio with the many different operators we use, our operators came back to us and said, "Hey, that's a better deal than I had." And of course, that's why we were rolling it out. Could we participate with our hotels that we operate for others? And we said, unfortunately, no, it's a Pebblebrook only arrangement. However, we have this idea that we want to talk to you about. And we spent the last year, really from January on to the announcement on your birthday, which was very well planned, I thought, Glenn.
I thought so too. Very excellent. I should say also Mickey Mouse's birthday, but this is no Mickey Mouse company.
Well, I didn't want to bring up the Mickey Mouse thing, but absolutely, it would rate right up there. And so we had a lot of conversations about, how do we satisfy owners? It's a very difficult environment right now in the pandemic, right? And even pre-pandemic, it was difficult for the small guy to compete. And so here was a way that we could bring economies of scale by putting together what we call an owner-centric platform. So this is built by an owner with operators for owners, and the idea is that we can help you improve the bottom line performance of your properties through more attractive arrangements with product and service providers, and you can still stay you. You can stay, here you are in New Orleans at a hotel. Actually, we had a strategic planning meeting at a few years ago. You remember that, Jen?
Yeah, I was going to say Glenn picked the perfect hotel because we've both been there and we know the general manager.
It looks absolutely beautiful.
And of course, that's a Provenance managed hotel, and Provenance is one of our founding members. And
cool.
the whole idea behind Curator is that Provenance can stay Provenance. The old 77 can stay the old 77. We're not going to say you need to do this, that, or the other. Curator is really a way that you can remain flexible. You can be independent. You can be creative. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're just here to provide you a financial opportunity to do better. And so that's really what's behind it. I think down the road, the opportunity to co-locate together and associate together and be a place where folks want to go to find unique hotels, that would be great. But really where we're starting here is with really the most important thing, particularly in a pandemic, which is how can we help you improve performance?
And Jennifer, I want to throw the next question to you. One of the things John said was that basically it will help you save money and it will help you financially. So what does that mean? What does that look like? And then I want for both of you, I want to ask you, why so long? Why did it take a company like you to finally do this when owners have been desperate for this for so long and brands didn't seem so interested in this part of the business? So Jennifer, the first question is how do you save owners money? And I love the name, by the way. I don't know how you came to that name, but you couldn't have picked a better name.
Tell them who came up with the name, Jen.
Ray came up with the name, right? Ray's son.
Yeah, Ray's son.
Of course. So how? Tell me the story real quick.
I don't know that the story is much more complicated than, typically when we name things, we kind of bring it in-house and ask our whole team, this is what we're doing. This is kind of the story behind it, brainstorm. And I think it's as simple as that. Ray was just talking to his sons about it, and one of his sons came up with it.
Jennifer, make up something better.
It's a perfect name. No, it's a perfect name.
I do think what was behind it was this idea that we would curate these products and services. So, you think about our industry and the constant innovation that's going on. And as an individual property owner or operator, it's really hard for you to get in the middle of all of that, right? And spend the time it takes to figure out that technology that said it's going to save me a gallon of water, or the new system that Oracle might develop, or whatever it might be. It's a lot easier for us with so many hotels to test those things and then recommend it to the group. And so we can curate what we think is good quality at the right price, and others can come up with it. And interesting about the name, that coming from one of his sons who also originally came up with I think a great looking logo, which we did not ultimately adopt, to his disappointment. But the name Pebblebrook, actually, my son came up with the name Pebblebrook. And there's a whole long story behind that we don't need to get into.
You know what? That tells me, I'm sorry, John, I'll give you a second to answer the question, but what I love about that is being in the business as long as I've been in the business, his son and your son coming up with names tells me what kind of environment Pebblebrook is. It tells me what kind of dynamic is there, because when companies get so big and they start hiring a lot of consultants and they start getting a lot of smart people in a room talking about smart ideas that really don't need to be that smart and don't need to be, it just needs to be simple and it makes sense. And Curator makes perfect sense for what you're trying to deliver. So how do you deliver that, and how do you save people money?
Yeah, so I can address that. So, the goal is to take advantage of economies of scale, clearly. So bring this collection together and leverage and use that leverage to get much better deals. That's the whole point. When we're reaching out, we're trying to touch every single discipline within a hotel operation. And we go to these vendors and service providers and explain the opportunity. Like, even if they work with some of our hotels today, there's no way they're working with all of them, and Curator is going to continue to grow. So use that leverage of scale to work out and negotiate master service agreements, that absolutely no individual hotel would be able to get on its own. But even, you've seen our list of founding members that are part of Curator. It's got to be better than any independent operator can get on their own today as well. So, we're going through the list of, everything we could possibly touch, everything from, bottled water to, market intelligence reports, AV, credit card processing, energy procurement, Wi-Fi, TV service, insurance. I mean, there's so many things we can touch with economies of scale to bring those costs down. And then the other part of it is sharing some of our proprietary, processes that we've been executing on within Pebblebrook for many years, whether that's benchmarking in a very, very detailed manner on the cost side that can help hotels identify where they have opportunities to save costs compared to, another grouping of like hotels. And we have some proprietary systems and software that we've created ourselves related to contract management, meaning, keeping track of all your contracts and your licenses and permits to make sure you don't miss anything. And also the way we run our capital process here at Pebblebrook, roll that out to Curator Hotels in terms of keeping track of all of your capital planning, all your capital budgeting, approvals, and the draw process themselves. So we're trying to take somewhat of a holistic view on the operations side of trying to deliver a lot of cost savings and then roll out some things we've been doing at Pebblebrook for a number of years to help those hotels out.
So let me ask you guys this.
There's two things I wanted to say. One, there's a lot of projects I'm working on that I can use your help with, and so I'm sure
I'm going to send you my number right after this.
What's funny is, Jennifer, when you were going down the list of things you can help people with, you kind of did a shimmy. So as a marketing guy, I was thinking about, as soon as you did that, I was like, we can do a rap song to say the things that we can help you with. So we can help you with. So
yeah. You do the beatboxing and I'll do the rapping.
I do not want to see that.
We'll put some practice in first, Glenn. Don't worry.
That's good. So I got a question for you, Jennifer and John. All the major brands are very focused on these types of collections, right? Most notably, you got Autograph Collection from Marriott, Curio Collection from Hilton. The first one, let's give them credit, Choice Hotels with the Ascend Collection. What makes this different, and in your opinion, a better choice for hoteliers out there? John?
Well, we're really trying to provide an alternative, Glenn. I mean, you think about the environment we've been going through, and look at the consolidation that's gone on in our industry, and in the brand consolidation. You look at independent small brands that have been gobbled up in the last couple of years. Hyatt bought Destination, which had 4 or 5 brands. You look at Accor, who's now bought SBE. They're in the process of basically buying Hoxton. You look at the consolidation on the operator side that's been going on, Aimbridge and Interstate as examples, and many others. And what that tells you is there's financial pressure to get larger. And so what we're trying to do is called a competitive collaboration, if you will, where we are a competitive industry. On the other hand, as you both know, this is an incredibly collegial industry. Everybody knows everybody else. A lot of people have worked together. They like Jen and Anthony working at the same firm. So many folks have worked together, and we work on a lot of common industry issues. And here's a way to provide financial assistance. So we give somebody a choice, a better choice in a way, right? A more competitive choice. I think in general, people really want to maintain their entrepreneurial spirit. They want to maintain their creativity. It's a really fun industry when you create it yourself or you operate it yourself. You guys talk about that all the time. And so here's a way to enhance the ability for folks to stay on their own, to be creative, to run their hotel the way they think is the best for their customers. And I don't want to, it's not about being anti-brand. It's just about having an alternative for folks who are really struggling out there, but desperately want to maintain their independence.
One of the things I say is, like, people hate third parties and people hate brands. They're like, the brands take all my fees, third parties take all the fees. Well, you know what? If it wasn't for the third parties and it wasn't for the brands, a lot of hotels wouldn't be in business. So I'm
right.
with you. It's like my job as an asset manager or a developer or an owner or a general manager is to use those brands and those third parties to my benefit, not to their benefit, but to my benefit. And I always, and you can do it, and you can do it in a way where it doesn't hurt the bottom line. It actually enhances the bottom line, but you've got to be a real operator to understand how to use them. When you rely on them because you're lazy, you rely on them because you have mediocre people around you, that's when you get in trouble. When you have high performers around you, and Pebblebrook's all about high performers, they want to use those relationships to benefit them, but they don't need them for a lot of things, like bringing in Curator. That makes perfect sense, and it's so over. It's just so. I couldn't even say timely. It's like someone should have invented this a long time ago because everybody wants it. When you talk to owners today, never ever in the industry do I think owners are more fed up with all of it.
Right.
Just all of it. They're getting killed with taxes. They're getting killed with higher wages. They're getting killed with third parties. They're getting killed with brand fees. So even when you see a hotel in Times Square that has had the best year revenue-wise it's ever had and can't make its debt service,
right,
and can't make its payroll, and that's a problem.
Wait, Anthony, let's just clarify. That was pre-COVID, that scenario.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So these hotels that are having problems that are now closed, that are reopening, they had problems way before. If you look at the New York Hilton on 42nd Street, they were having a lot of problems way before the pandemic.
Well, and I think, I don't want to get into it. I don't believe, as you do, Anthony, that it's a brand versus non-brand.
Absolutely.
It's not. Half of our EBITDA comes from properties with major brands. And now we tend to focus on the lifestyle brands like W and Autograph Collection and Luxury Collection. And there's a place for everybody. And all we're trying to do is provide an alternative to help people survive. If they want to survive on their own, here's a way that we can help you. And you know what? If you want to go to a collection brand, more power to you. Whatever you think is the right thing for you, this is just helping them at the end of the day.
Yeah, and just to clarify something I said, I agree with you 100%. They could use help. Every hotel could use help. And if the brands were as strong as they are, I don't think the travel experience would be as great as it is. If you think 25 years ago, when you were traveling around and whether it be a brand or an independent, it was like, you were taking your chances. Now, because of the internet, now because the brands are so strong, because they have incredible people working for them and they've standardized so much. I mean, I can't remember the last time I stayed at a bad hotel. And not because I like staying in fancy hotels, just because hotels are so much better than they were 20 years ago, in large part because of the brands.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. And when we were looking at this opportunity, one of the things that was clear to us is, interestingly, most of the major brands really don't focus on saving you money. They do when they have some master service agreements, but generally their focus is on delivering the top line and promoting the brand and maintaining a loyalty program and et cetera. And you look at the affiliation systems that were set up, they never really focused on the cost side. And we just felt that this was an opportunity in the market that no one was focused on. And we were sort of uniquely qualified because of where our focus was as an owner. And that's why we call this an owner-centric platform, that it really is for owners.
Yeah, that is really important. So I think a great thing for us to do right now to get a better understanding of it is we've got a short little video so all of you out there can understand exactly what Curator Hotels and Resorts is all about.
Change.
The old Xena button wall. I have a
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah.
It's so great. Someone pointed out that Xena was part of this group as well, which is excellent. John, I got to tell you, we love that hotel so much and can't wait to get there.
I'd be lying if I didn't tell you. I may have one or two of those buttons from that wall in my daughter's room. Because my daughter loved that hotel, so she loved it very much. And I loved the Ruth Bader Ginsburg painting. And I don't know if you heard, but I had a cheeseburger, and I was quoted. I can't say what I said now, but I literally flung out of my chair. So we're sitting, the chef is, and we were tired. So we weren't really that much in the mood for kind of a chef buffet because we had a long day. But we're like, listen, they're putting us up. Let's show respect. So we sat there, and it was the best like friggin' thing I did. We sat there. They cut a cheeseburger into 4. I tasted the cheeseburger. I jumped out of my seat. I tried to find the kitchen to find the chef, and I'm yelling like over and over again. It's the best effing cheeseburger I've ever had in my life. And it literally is. Anybody that is in Washington, go to the Xena and get the cheeseburger. I guarantee you it is the best cheeseburger you'll ever have.
And not to belabor the point, John, but producer Dave actually stayed the next day till they opened at 5 just to have the cheeseburger before meeting us at our next location. Yes.
That's Viceroy, who's the operator. And the funny thing about that, Anthony, is I saw your show. So I saw your comment about that cheeseburger and the emotion that was behind it, the passion that was behind it. And so we literally just had our budget call for that a couple days ago. And one of the things I said on the call is, you guys need to send me the recipe for that burger, because you can't just keep it to yourselves. And by the way, I had the burger at another one of your properties that we happen to own. And you have to do this burger there too. You can't just do it at Fig Leaf at Hotel Xena. If it's that good, which I think it is, based upon the response, we need to do.
If you want to get in the burger business, I think that's a great burger to get in the burger business with.
All right, I do want to point out, I don't want to make the chicken sandwich feel bad, because that was pretty awesome.
I heard that too, Glenn.
And just so you know, I had to call my friend Joe Isidori, who co-founded Black Tap, and say, Joe, I'm sorry.
By the way, that's a great place, Black Tap.
Oh, Joe's a very, very, he's my family at this point. And we're working on a project that we talked about in Long Beach together. And it's an amazing burger, amazing place. And I got a lot of funny stories about that place. But anyway, I just think Curator is at the right time, at the right place. And, if there was a company that was going to create it, I'm glad it was Pebblebrook, because the way you were built from the ground up. You were built from the root. And when you build something like Curator, it is so critical to have that, that knowledge, that history. But before I go, Glenn asked a question, I want to ask the logo. I noticed the logo. Tell me how and why the logo. I love it.
Jen?
Well, yeah, we actually used, we have this wonderful branding firm out of Portland that we've used for quite a few projects, mainly when we've been completely renovating, renaming, relaunching hotels. We found them to be incredibly creative. It's like the most fun process we've ever been through with anyone. So we had this long experience with them. The firm is called Fine out of Portland. And we brought them in, into the mix on Curator, really easy, because they're very trusted, smart guys and gals. And, we just went through, a series of logos with them. And we loved how graphic it was. We loved that, obviously, the C is in there, as part of it. And we can use, the letters and the words along with it, or we can just use the graphic by itself, at some point as well, and people will, hopefully there'll be some recognition there. So I don't know. I mean, part of my job has always been the most fun is working with these creative types. And so far we've mostly used this firm out of Portland.
Yeah, I work with a company called Alternatives in New York, and it's the branding company I use, and they're fantastic. And same thing, we have so much fun, and when you see it, you know it.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, we did a great podcast with the good folks over there. I will rerun that as a bonus episode as well. So be sure to download, checking in with Anthony and Glenn audio podcast feed for all of you folks out there that are watching us on video. Go to Checking In with Anthony and Glenn on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your shows, and subscribe over there.
And Anthony, that the sizzle reel you just showed, that was the same group. It's Fine Design out of Portland. I hesitate to mention their name because we like them only to want to do business with us and spend their creative energies on our projects. But they also were involved with the logo and the branding for Hotel Zeno, where you did your show, and quite a few of our unofficial Z Collection hotels.
Yeah, and I want to again go back to Zeno for a second. I just, it was so exciting to see a hotel like that exist. I have 3 girls, right? And they're growing up. My baby's 18 and my twins are 21. And they're growing up at a time where it's challenging for all of us. So they're pretty vocal on how they feel. And to see that kind of woman empowerment and to see that kind of hotel, I cannot wait to go there. Matter of fact, I think we're going for the inauguration. We're going down there, and hopefully we'll stop by the Zena and do a podcast from the Zena again.
Yeah, that'd be great. That we'd love to take credit for all the ideas that end up in our hotels, but in that particular case, it was really the lead designer that we've worked with, Andrea Dawson, and her daughter. And so here we go, the next generation again getting involved. Where does creativity come from? Sometimes we older people can be pretty boring and staid and stuck in our ways. So we love these ideas from younger people. And she and her daughter were on a trip in Australia, and they just, I don't know, somehow they came around to talk. She's trying to teach her daughter about how women can be very successful like men, and there's no reason to think you can't you can be president of the United States as an example. And they came back and they said, we have this idea for Hotel Zena. What do you think? And we said, we think it's perfect. It's so topical. It's timing. And we got to do it in a really fun way.
Yeah.
So we're really talking about branding, I think, essentially. Curator brand, individual brands. How do you create a collection where all the individual brands have the opportunity to shine and make impact in the consumer zeitgeist while also being under the umbrella of a master brand? Jennifer?
Glenn, once in a while you ask really good questions.
Well, it's all of my goal to make you less irritated with me, Anthony.
Well, the way I'd answer that is it goes back to some of what John said earlier. We're hands off. I mean, completely flexible. There's nothing, required or mandated to be part of Curator, because we want these hotels and the operators to continue doing what they're doing. I mean, they're focused on their own top line. They're focused on their operation and delivering amazing, hopefully unique, creative guest experiences. And the way we view, if you want to call it the membership in Curator, is the only thing we look at are the online ratings, because we feel like, let the customer decide. It's important to deliver what the customers want. So as long as they fall within a range of, a specific range of the online ratings, that's good enough for us, because they're delivering what the customer wants. And, even in terms of exactly what we deliver for Curator, it is a pick and choose what works for you. Hopefully, by virtue of the website, and the visuals we're delivering, you can see the type of hotel that is going to kind of fit within Curator under that umbrella. And we're focused on vendors and service providers that are a good fit for those kind of hotels. But again, it's pick and choose what works for you, continual communication with the member hotels and the operators. What are you looking for? What challenges are you having? What are the offerings you want to see, so that we can deliver, to them on the platform and the proposition, we put forth.
And I'm so glad you said that you look at the ratings and how customers are reacting to the hotel, because that's where it's at, right? When we went from common cards to online, the hard common cards, I was the most excited person in the world, because now my housekeepers couldn't throw the common cards away. So I knew exactly where. I remember when TripAdvisor, I was at the Lucerne Hotel on the Upper West Side. I literally got all the common cards. I put them on my desk. I got everybody in my office. relatively big office, and I said, hey, we're no longer going to use common cards because our guests are going to know how we're doing. And they're going to tell the person in Europe or China or wherever how we're doing. So this is great. Everybody was horrified. You remember when people were going on TripAdvisor and online, all the owners and managers were horrified. I was so excited because I like being transparent. I always say, if I suck, tell me. Like, if I'm not doing a good job, tell me I'm not doing a good job, and I'll do a better job tomorrow. So I think that you're looking at that. And also, as fellow asset managers, you understand how much pressure we put on operators and general managers and director of sales. They don't need another pressure point from Curator to kind of hold them to a standard outside of, are you taking care of the guest?
Well, I think, Anthony, 2 points I'd make. One is, having it public means accountability, right? Like you were saying, housekeepers throwing cards away, or the team's throwing cards away. The reality is we can't fix anything if we don't know what's wrong, and particularly when we use third-party operators, which we REITs, we're required to do. And so from that perspective, I think it's great. And the other point related to it is really who are we to tell people what quality is? Look, people will decide that on their own, right? You and I may have a totally different view of quality. I may love convenience. Don't bother me. I want to get to my room as quickly as I can.
Right.
I may love design. I want to walk around the hotel on my own. I don't want anybody to bother me. You may say I want 35 people lined up at the front door with white gloves on, and that's my idea of quality. Who is it for us to say that what our view of quality is and impose that on others, particularly since it's so different by property, by location, by operator, by market.
And I think that's so true now because growing up in this business, the 5-star rating, the 4-star rating, and in some instances is still important. But what's better if you're a 5-star hotel with a 3-star review rating from guests, or are you better to have a 3-star rating but 5-star rating from the guest? I'd stay at a 3-star with a 5-star rating from the guest way before I would stay at a 5-star, 3-star rated from the guest. And I think that that's a good point. And nowadays, transparency, I was telling Glenn this in one of the shows where I love the word authentic and transparent. When people, like in the last 5 years, so I say, that's the word of the year, that's the word of the day. Well, the only way I built my career is to be transparent and authentic.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you build a company, and that's why Pebblebrook grew so quickly, and you're able to attract talent because authenticity and transparency is what guests want, and there is no substitute for it.
Yeah, it's like when we get in trouble, people always accuse me of being too direct. Like, what do you want? People to not be direct? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But what does make sense is this particular collection at this particular moment of time. Now, you launched with 7 hotels initially. What are your goals for the company, short-term and long-term? And adding to that, John, is the pandemic helpful or a hindrance for you adding to the collection at this particular time? I'm not looking for the financial ramifications of how each of the individual businesses are doing, but just the overall tenor of what that means to the growth of the collection.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jen, why don't you get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, just to clarify, so we launched with, you could say 7 groups, including Pebblebrook.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But day one, we had all 31 Pebblebrook owned lifestyle boutique hotels in. So you could view those on the website right away. When you go through the list of, our other 6 founding members and what's in their portfolio that will go into Curator, including Pebblebrook, you get really quickly to that 120 number.
Right.
So right now we've got the additional 10 Provenance hotels featured on our website. They've already officially signed up, and we've got a group coming from Noble House very quickly as well to get us to 50. Fantastic. And frankly, hopefully it's just we have a high hit ratio with the rest because they're all attached to the founding members, and we get to 120 pretty quickly. So that's kind of what we're looking at trajectory wise. And since we've launched, we've had an incredible amount of interest. Again, as John was saying earlier, and we were discussing, the industry, is fairly small. A lot of us have worked together at different companies, or we've done deals together, over the years. So we've had a whole lot of outreach, and it's been, really fun for me to get back to my roots. I mean, Anthony, when I was at Tishman, I was dealing with a lot of other owners and, trying to do deals with other owners and, other managing for other owners. So I've been able to make connections with a lot of these other operators and owners that we didn't necessarily talk to day to day, as an asset manager at Pebblebrook, but are very intrigued by what we're trying to do and very interested in it.
So Jennifer, something doesn't make sense. You graduated from Cornell, you worked as an asset manager pretty quickly at Tishman, and you have empathy and you understand operations. What happened to you?
Listen, when I was at school, I did every job in that Statler Hotel, and that's when I figured out how hard the work is and how wonderful the people are that work at hotels, and they love what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it resonated with me. I appreciate it so much. I just tend to be more of a kind of analytical, kind of contract type person. So it wasn't a good fit for me. My sister is a hotel GM. She's amazing. She works so hard every day. But I get it because I've done all those jobs myself.
I remember, growing up in this industry, before I got to Tishman, I was probably in the industry 20 years plus, running and turning around hotels. I became a general manager pretty early on in my career, 29. And I remember showing up, and I remember going into that little office, you'll remember, at the Westin, down at the hall.
Right.
And by the way, when Robert, who's our friend, was on vacation, I renovated the office after he told me not to renovate it. But that's a whole nother story. So I'm at the corner because we were doing a construction, and I needed some more room in the office. But anyway, so I walk into the office. My first day, I'm nervous as could be because I'm an operator. Like, I don't know this world. I feel I'm way, like, I am like talking about punching up. I'm punching up way above my weight category. And I walk in, and basically everybody reporting into me has a master's degree from Cornell and is 10 times smarter than me and about 20 years younger than me. And I remember the first day I walked in and I was like, oh, that's where you guys are. Because I've been in the industry 20 years. I haven't seen a Cornell grad in 20 years. That's where you guys are. You guys are Tishman. But I will tell you, I want to shout out one person individually. First of all, Andrea Kepik, who's both friends when we worked there. She's amazing. Hardest working person in the world. But John Paulson, I write about him in my book that's going to be published in a couple of months. And I went out of my way to make sure I mentioned John Paulson. John Paulson, as you probably know, Jennifer, right?
Yeah.
He should have got my job, to be honest with you. I got the job because I had a relationship, long-term relationship, and I was in operations. So he brought me in, Robert. But John Paulson should have got my job. And John Paulson, knowing that he was better and smarter than me, never made me feel that way. And he really taught me the ropes. He taught me cash flows. He taught me P&Ls. I asked every stupid question a human being can ask. I stayed up without anybody knowing on Sunday, spent 18 hours trying to figure out cash flows and P&Ls and LIBOR and figure it all out. And I come in the morning and be just as dumb as I was when I left when I went in Sunday. And John would always be patient and respectful and never showed if he had any resentment because I had his job, what I thought should have been his job. Was always respectful, and I'll never forget that. So, John Paulson, if you're listening, I love you and thank you.
Yeah, he is a wonderful person, no doubt. We reconnected because he became an asset manager too.
Sure.
We reconnected through Hotel Asset Management Association through HAMA. So I've stayed in touch with him, and he's fantastic. I agree. I'm so glad you brought him up.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I would have to leave his office every once in a while because I was like, I got to go look up the words you just used. Hold on.
That's where I learned all my fancy words from, Anthony. So Jennifer, we got a question. So what does Curator offer to some people? Digital marketing, sales? What are some of those benefits to being part of the collection out there?
Yeah, so in relation to anything that has to do with top line, driving top line or providing promotions or digital marketing strategies, that's not the offering for Curator, at least at this point with the launch. I mean, we are completely focused on trying to bring in cost savings for these ownership groups and trying to roll out, like I said earlier, some of the processes and other platforms that we've been using at Curator. for years. I mean, is there any opportunity for that in the future? I don't know. It'd have to be, a collective conversation with the membership. But that's not the point. We're very self-aware. That's not the point of Curator or the promise of Curator at this point in time, that we're going to be able to affect the top line at all.
So
if you think about it, in its simplest form, any product and service that you buy at a hotel, we hope that we can buy it less expensively and save the owner money, whatever it is. So if you want to go out and do digital marketing, or you want to work with a web provider, or you want to work with a distribution channel, you want to work with a technology company, our intention is that we're going to have a more attractive financial arrangement for you.
So how do you show that to me again, being an asset manager, how do you show that to me at the end of the month or the end of the year? Like, how do you quantify that?
So part of, to answer your question directly, it'll be part of the onboarding process. So when a new hotel signs up for Curator, there'll be an onboarding process, mainly through our Salesforce CRM that we've already set up, and there'll be a portal for member hotels. And we do have to collect a lot of this information on the front end during onboarding. Obviously, we have all that for our own hotels, but we don't have it for the hotels that we don't own. So we've been trying to be very focused on setting up a process where we can get, you need the starting point to be able to calculate these numbers. So when you get onboarded, there's going to be a comprehensive amount of information we need from you, so that we can figure out what those savings are, and then we can report out to those member hotels, again, to prove out the value proposition. And it's also, at a more detailed level, every time these hotels are referencing our MSAs and talking to the vendors, the discussion, that's the whole point, to save money. So if you want, to participate in our bottled water deal, it's a member hotel, you're going to see all of the detail related to the costs and the terms of that contract. And we'll have an account management individual here at Curator that's going to help through that process to make sure that those calculations are done at the point of signing up for it as well. And then we can carry that forward and prove out those savings over time as well.
And I don't want this to get lost on, because this I think is pretty easy to understand. But one of the things Jen mentioned that I think is worth making sure you understand. You know the benefit of Smith Travel reports for, how do you position a property? How are you doing compared to your competition? How's the market doing? Well, the industry has really struggled to benchmark the rest of the financial statement, right? And so one of the things that we're providing, if people want to participate, and again, it's totally up to them, is they provide us their data on their income statement, all the expenses. We run that through our system. They can pick 5 hotels or whatever number of hotels within our program that are like theirs. And at every detail level, it'll tell you whether you got a problem or you don't. And is there an opportunity to lower costs? Now, we may not have the solution, meaning it's not going to spit out and say, you're paying your labor 3 cents too much per hour, but it'll say you're 1 or 2 standard deviations away from the average. You need to look into that category and understand perhaps where there might be an opportunity to save money. And that doesn't exist.
It's about empowering each of the individual operators with as much information as they can have so they can make more intelligent decisions.
So, John, what you didn't see is when you were saying that, I shed a tear and I gave you standing ovation. For those of the people not in the industry, they may not understand what you just said, but having a star report for those kind of things and those kind of line items and expense reports is like, I'd rather have that than a brand new Bentley. I mean, because again, star reports, P&Ls, cash flows. I was looking at P&L yesterday, and I literally couldn't wait to get home to look at my P&L. I was so excited to go through a new P&L. And, I'm a geek that side also. I love numbers. So if I had a star report for that part of the business, it's like kind of like when, Sternlicht came out with the bed stupid. It's like star report for expenses stupid. it's like the same thing. It's to me, it's the heavenly bed of asset management.
I love that, the heavenly bed.
We're going to use that.
We might use that, although I'm guessing heavenly bed is taken, but we need to be careful on that. But it really, I mean, you think about all the data there is in the industry, and this competitive collaboration or collaborative, competition we have in this industry. I mean, we're so backwards from a technology perspective, and we're so backwards from a use of data perspective. And we spent a year basically mapping these expenses. Sorry to get into the detail like you.
We love that.
I love that stuff, which is really sick, I know, but but it was why our asset managers love me, because I think sometimes anyway, because we get into that stuff, and having that data, I mean, it's allowed us at Pebblebrook to have better margins than others with similar properties in our industry by as much as a couple of 100 basis points, and that's a huge amount of value.
Absolutely. And John, I don't want to, correct you, but I have to correct you. Asset managers aren't capable of love.
Well, Jen is.
You haven't worked here, Anthony. With all due respect, there's a lot of love here.
I know. I'm teasing. Man, asset managers with a heart. That should be your logo. Asset managers with a heart.
Did you interview with us at one point? I'm trying to remember.
What's that?
Ray,
interview with us, or was it just Ray reaching out to you and you said no thanks?
No, apparently. Okay, first of all, David Lilly is basically, he's my best friend. He's been in this industry for a long time, and Ray and him grew up together, so that's how I know Ray. And apparently, Ray had just told me yesterday that I remember having coffee, me, him, and Dave back in the day, and apparently he was kind of snooping me for asset management of New York properties, and I didn't know that, because if I did, I would have probably left the F-bombs out. I probably dropped a few. But no, I had no idea. It's an honor that he would even consider me to come into Pebblebrook. And listen, if you have a job now, as quick as I can get away from Glenn and everything else I'm doing, I'll be happy.
Sorry, buddy. You're effed. You're trapped here with me. Now, before we run out of time, because we are starting to get a little bit closer to the top of the hour, John, we have a lot of folks here that are still learning the hospitality business. And obviously, you're with one of the most well-known REITs that are out there. That stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. Could you explain to them exactly what that means, what its role is in hospitality, and then how the heck do you go and start one?
Sure. Yeah. I didn't know if you wanted a real answer because you were muting my mic, but
we just didn't want any reverb, but we're on top of that.
So yeah, interestingly, we were the first lodging REIT we created was LaSalle Hotel Properties, and we did it back in April of 1998. And basically, you think about other REITs, whether it's Simon Property Group in malls or it's folks in industrial or other real estate categories, there was a creation of REITs so the little guy could own a piece of real estate and do it in a liquid way. And except when we finally got around to lodging and the creation of lodging as a REIT, the rules said you could not operate your own properties because they deemed the hotels to be operating businesses, which of course we all know is the case, right? This is very intensive operating business. So the business that we created, well, we didn't create it, but that was created was, so you have the ownership group, i.e. Pebblebrook, who owns the properties, and then we hire third parties, like any of the 18 third parties that we have, Viceroy, Davidson, Noble House, Marriott, Hyatt, etc., to manage our properties for us through the process. They don't take any risk. We take all the ownership risk and the economic risk. They get paid a fee for operating the hotels, and whatever's left between revenues, expenses, and their fees comes down to us as an owner. And that's basically what a REIT is. And we're traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and there's a dozen or so lodging REITs.
Right. That's right. So if I can't afford to buy a hotel, I could buy X amount of shares in Pebblebrook and then feel like I have hotel ownership, which is spread over a portfolio as opposed to a single property. But John, how do you wake up one day and go, I'm going to start a REIT? What is that process like?
Well, the first time that happened was back in the late 90s, pre-LaSalle, and we were working with 3 private equity groups, and it was pretty clear to us that, private equity groups have a much shorter horizon for ownership, and they're usually kind of in and out in 3, 4, 5 years. And in order to be competitive with operators and be sort of the owner of choice, perpetual ownership or long-term ownership is obviously more attractive to operators. And so they often generate opportunities to buy properties in the market. And so we believe public capital is less expensive than private capital because it provides liquidity for investors. You always know what your interest is worth. And so so we rolled it up and we took 10 assets and we went public, and then we grew LaSalle Hotels from there. Pebblebrook was a little different. In the last downturn, the Great Recession, we all know how challenging it was for hotels. The average hotel lost about 50% of its EBITDA. And so I had already announced a retirement to go look at green energy, frankly, and then the downturn happened. And so we started Pebblebrook, Ray Martz and I, our CFO, in December of 2009. And literally, we did wake up one morning and say, Barry Sternlicht did this blind pool REIT for mortgages. Couldn't we do this for hotels? And we talked to a bunch of public investors, and they said, yeah, you guys have a really good track record. We like you in the space. You're transparent. You're honest. Why don't you do it? And we'll be supportive. And so we did a public offering with 2 of us. We raised $400 million. We had no hotels, and we had no pipeline of hotels because, frankly, there really wasn't anything on the market at the end of December 2009.
Yeah, Ray was telling me the story yesterday, and I was hysterical. He said something he had to figure out a bank account too to put the $400 million in. It's you know what? But what I like about that story, John, is you dispel the notion of that it started with this glamorous, preparation. What you had was authenticity and transparency and a track record, and people took a chance on you. Even though you were an experienced person, you needed people to take a chance on you. And it was like you got $400 million before you had a hotel, before you really had a plan. But because you and Ray are such legends in the industry, people took a shot at you. So one of the things I'm going to ask Jennifer, we're going to kind of take a little term because we're going to end soon. So I want to make this, John, this is your life moment.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Jennifer, we've all worked with a lot of different people. And
Are you going to put my job on the line right now?
Yes, I am.
I sense Jennifer's internet connection is going to go south.
Your job is 100% on the line. What is different about working at Pebblebrook as opposed to other companies? Again, I worked at Tishman. I love Tishman. You worked at Tishman. I know you're very close to that group. So it's not comparing him to any other group. But what makes Pebblebrook different?
The way I would answer that is a couple of things. Number one for me was the culture. So I was the first asset manager hired in, and because Pebblebrook, just as John just said, was a startup, everyone that was hired was handpicked, and that means it was a function of you've worked with at least one other person here before. You like each other, you get along, each of you can handle your responsibilities. And, from day one, Pebblebrook has a set of values that, of course, are on a range of course, we want to be successful and we want to, provide great returns for our shareholders. But it's not just that. It's the value system of celebrating success and having fun and respecting the stakeholders that you work with. So, I'd answer that number one. And number two is, also just how John operates the company. We all have direct access to him, but it's not overwhelming in a sense that he's not micromanaging everyone. He gives us all so much autonomy to get things done, and we can always go to him to ask him questions. And what I also like is I mean, it really is, and I don't know why I'm kind of laughing about it. I mean, he really loves everybody here. Like we go to, before the pandemic, if he was in the office, he wants to go to lunch with whoever's in the office. And sure, we talk about a little bit of work stuff, but we talk about a lot of personal stuff too. And he loves everyone here and is so happy to be a mentor because, like you said, Anthony, Tishman was amazing and I learned so much there, but I didn't come into Pebblebrook knowing everything by any means. And John was so patient and such a good mentor to help me learn everything else I needed to know. And I'm still learning.
Well, Jennifer, just to make a note, it seems that they were looking at me as an asset manager before you, just to keep that right.
I know, we totally lost out on you. I mean, I think you did pretty well, Anthony, though. I think you're okay.
But you know what? And listen, and the reason I say that is because, I heard of John, obviously. He's a legend in the industry, but I really don't know John. And so I sense that from here. And again, if I have any talent at all, is to identify talent. And just to be in that environment every day would be so much fun for just whether it be an asset manager or even just, whatever job. It's because, like you said, it's I always say, and I've said this in every hotel I've ever taken over, that, and because any hotel I've taken over has always been a repositioning. And again, as you guys know, when you're repositioning a hotel, there's not a lot of smiles on the investors' faces. There's a lot of, get it done, shut up, and we'll ask questions later. And so I love that environment. But the one thing I always told my staff is I want to laugh and have fun every day, because when I have to turn to the owner every day right now, I'm not having fun. So as long as we do our job, we can laugh and have fun, because the owners will eventually start smiling and laughing. I work with Miller Global, and John, I'm sure you know Miller Global. The Millers are the best people I've ever met in my life. Dave Johnstone, just great people. You mentioned Destination before. You may not want to mention my name to Charlie Peck, but that's a different story. And so it's these relationships. I will never forget the Miller Global Group. They literally gave me my career, because Dave Johnstone said the greatest thing anyone's ever said to me in the history of my career: don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. And he meant it.
One of the things, when you start with no assets, obviously you're going to take risk, and we're in an industry where you have to take a lot of risk, right? It's a really hard industry, and so part of the culture is we're all going to make lots of mistakes. It's okay, right? Learn from your mistakes, experiment. We encourage our operators, try things. It's okay. Just make sure you talk to us before you do some crazy stuff, and make sure we're on board. If we're on board, when we screw up together. And so let's just not make the same mistake over and over and over again. But outside of that, it's all right to screw up. We're going to do it. Everybody does it, right? And that has to be part of the culture. And we have an all for one and one for all culture, and a collaboration with our operators. I mean, it's a partnership, and I think we're all better together than we are individually.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I remember the one thing in the hotel business that always drove me crazy. I started at the Plaza Hotel. Well, actually, I started the first Embassy Suites ever built in Overland Park, Kansas. Bob Legler and Arlene gave me a great opportunity there after I got out of the military. And then I went into the Embassy Suites in Times Square, and then the Plaza Hotel. And one of the things I saw over and over again was we were fixing the same guest complaint, which means we were fixing the guest. We were getting the guest happy, but we weren't fixing the core problem. And at that front desk, I remember saying to myself, yes, Anthony, I will absolutely 100% fix the issues. So what became my absolute focus was room change orders. Why are we room changing? And then engineering slips. Why is that engineering slip not being fixed? Once I focused on that, because in our industry, we have a great way of solving the guest issue, but not solving our issue. And I think when you allow people to give suggestions, and you allow an openness to fix those problems, they get fixed. When you're just putting Band-Aids all day long, which a lot of hotels do, and we've all seen it, nothing gets fixed.
Yeah, totally. A funny little story. I was down in Key West a couple months ago. We were doing a model room for one of our hotels, and in the morning, I was just walking around the property, just checking it out, right, to see. I wasn't inspecting. I was just I was just walking around looking, and there was an engineer who was cleaning the pool who stopped me, and he didn't know who I was, and but he thought I was looking at things a little peculiar or maybe a little too closely. And he said, "Are you associated with the hotel?" And I explained that I was. And he said, "I have to clean this pool 5 times a day because that tree over there drops these things in the pool that causes the drain." And just went through this whole story, very passionate about it. And I went back to the operating team and I said, "Hey, I think we need to cut that tree down, and here's why." And they sort of looked at me like I was nuts. Like what? And I said, "Well, I was talking to the engineer, and I mean, the guy has to do the same job 5 times a day. That's crazy. It's a waste of money. I don't like to cut trees down. We'll plant another one somewhere else, but that particular one was causing a problem." But it's what you say is treat the problem, not the symptom. Right.
And what I love about that story is, one, you went out of your way to say you weren't inspecting because you don't want anybody to think you go and inspect hotels. I love that. It was a little nuanced, but that was important. And number 2, that the employee wasn't worried about his job safety by saying, "I don't want to do this 5 times." Because a lot of employees would be like, "No, I love doing this 5 times. It's a great tree. Don't cut the tree down," because they're looking for job security.
Right.
And he was incredibly passionate about it. And that's important, right? As a human being, when somebody's passionate about something, it's important to them.
And passionate people aren't worried about their job. They're worried about doing a good job. And there's a big difference there. I'm not worried about getting fired. I'm worried about doing my job the right way. And if I have to tell the owner of the property that potentially could get me in trouble, they have to feel that openness with you and with their team to be able to tell you that. So there's a lesson just in that one little story. There's literally an entire class you can teach at Cornell about that moment.
Yeah, for sure. So just wrapping up, Curator Hotel and Resorts, a great new collection with companies such as Benchmark Global Hospitality participating. Of course, their CEO, Alex Cabanas, is joining us, I think, January 11th on the show. Also, Davidson Hotels, Noble House Hotels and Resorts, of course, Pebblebrook, Providence. And I'm talking right now with Ambassador Somlin's people, trying to get him on to the show as well. Springboard Hospitality and Viceroy Hotels and Resorts. And we've had Bill Walsh on the show. Go check our catalog of shows from the beginning of November, late October, I believe was his last appearance on that. This is very exciting, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today? Let's start with Jennifer and then go to John.
Listen, this was a lot of fun today, guys. Thanks for giving us this opportunity. We appreciate the support, and let us know whenever we can give you any more information about Curator.
Thanks for giving us this opportunity. John?
Well, I would say thank you. You guys are a lot of fun, and I'll come on your show anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys. Congratulations and lots of luck and success into the new year. We'll have you back real soon. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jennifer. Again, the show's built on the backs of people like that. Like they get coming on, announcing Curator on our show is important for our show. It's a big deal, for them to do that. They could do it anywhere. Mm-hmm. And that they came on and they did it on our show. It's why the show continues to be, basically the place everybody comes to. And John and Jennifer, thank you again. Ray, thank you again. And Dave, thank you for introducing me to Ray a long time ago. So anyway,
yeah. All right. So I definitely feel blessed to be in the position that we're in to help tell great stories of empowerment and success and innovation in our particular industry. Thanks to Best Buy for being a great sponsor. Thanks to Eco Technology for being a great sponsor. We got a lot more great sponsors coming on in the next couple of months as we move forward. But also, Anthony, I'm just so excited about all the great content that we're doing day after day. And tomorrow, we're taking things a little bit differently. We got Jim Holthauser, who's a former top executive from Hilton, who went and retired and then went ahead and took a CEO position with a major ownership group, franchise company for restaurants such as Moe's and Schlotsky's and Auntie Annie's and lots of great companies. Looking forward to that. And then Thursday, we're going to be getting a tour of Atwell Suites with their brand leader. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, Colleen, stop complaining. We're in New York. We're freezing over here.
Oh yeah, seriously. I've got somebody outside wrapping my my outside furniture right now.
Yeah, I did that yesterday
before the show. So freaking cold. My fingers were freezing up. I was having a hard time on the controls.
I did that yesterday. And for the people listening on the podcast, Colleen said, "Send some warm weather to Florida." We have no warm weather to send. Suzanne, I'm so glad you were watching this show. Because I think we've learned something for our class. Suzanne is a professor, a doctor over at Boston University, and we did our first Boston University class yesterday. I came in, she taught the class, she's been teaching it all semester, and I came in and I basically answered a lot of the students' questions. And Suzanne, it was so much fun. We were supposed to do an hour. I could have done 10. I think we did an hour and a half because I demanded that we stay on because I was having so much fun. So I can't wait to do more classes, Suzanne, and it was a lot of fun. And thank you for all your work. You can tell how much work you put into the course, and I truly appreciate it.
And remember, everybody, our show is distributed in a lot of different places, not just in the channel you're watching right now, but we're on YouTube, Anthony's LinkedIn page, my LinkedIn page, our novacancynews.com pages, and other places too. But most important, don't forget about the audio version of this podcast. If you aren't subscribed to No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman feed or the Checking In with Anthony and Glenn feed, go to your favorite podcast provider and subscribe today. Doesn't cost you anything, and it'll educate, empower, and hopefully entertain you.
And again, most people listen on our audio podcast. That's where I'd say 90% of people get this content. They listen on the audio podcast. The visual on Facebook and LinkedIn is kind of just for you and you to see each other.
Even though we still get 7,000 to 10,000 views per show, visual views.
Oh, absolutely.
Online. So thank you.
I'm just saying it pales in comparison to the podcast, but
it's just amazing. It's amazing. Thank you, everybody, for the support.
This was a fun show, and one of the things I love is when I can talk to people that I can relate to, and of course, John and especially Jennifer, I can relate to them, and we have the same kind of stories, and we know the same people, and I can talk about like the little like receipt at the front desk for room changes, and those are little things that run hotels. And I used to say it, back before I was an asset manager, you want to run a successful hotel, pay attention to your room changes.
Yeah.
You have to know why people are leaving the room. Why are they leaving the room? Could be simply the desk is too small. Okay, so when we do a new room, maybe build a bigger desk. Remember, for 30 seconds, everybody wanted to get rid of the desk. Well, guess what's back in the room? The desk.
Yeah.
But they didn't listen to the customer. That's why.
I know. I went to a brand new hotel once. I was the first guest ever to check into this particular hotel. Went to my room and I'm like, where's the desk? I guess that they didn't finish putting in all the furniture yet because I'm the first person to arrive. Turns out they were going to have no desk. I wasn't going to have any part of that. I never stayed in that hotel again. But that's just me.
Right. No. Listen, I used the desk for mostly putting my luggage on or putting my room service tray on, but I want the desk.
Excellent. All right, everybody, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. We appreciate you sticking around this far in the show. So if you did and you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. Subscribe to the shows wherever you get your shows. And thank you so much. And remember, guys, you've got one life, so blaze on and